Good morning and welcome to our legislative eggs and issues. I know Dario and his staff are not in here, but thank you to Cancun for hosting us this morning. I know these guys have to be in Visay after here, so we're going to go ahead and get started. An amazing week leading into today. We had last week the Lieutenant Governor's turkey hunt. We had a great turnout. Some amazing guests, and we'll hopefully follow up with you on the outcomes of that. Act One Theater had a production this past weekend, and then I thank the people who were with us yesterday for Bahama Breakaway for getting up this morning and joining us again this morning. So thank you all for being here this morning. Thank you guys for traveling in. And I'll let you guys get started. So thank you this morning, Representative Carl Newton and Senator Casey Murdoch.
I'll clean up when you're done.
You know, these senators, they always like to go last, so they can correct everything else the representative says. So, but no, it's glad to be here. It's glad to be back home, to be honest with you. It's been almost 3 weeks since I've been able to be back home. Needless to say, it's been an interesting month for us. I'm just trying to recap, and I'd like to answer your questions better, but we had teachers visiting us for 2 weeks, and that was quite interesting. Some of it got to be more for show than what was that, and it was not the teachers, but just some of the surrounding participants. We had lawyers coming to our offices. Rosie, did you have a lawyer come to your office?
No.
That was the interesting part. We had on Monday morning, there was some lawyers supposed to come over and they were going to clean this all up. There was a big fanfare, and I mean, they applauded them when they came in. They came from the courthouse over there and they came into the Capitol and they walked in, and I've only heard of 2 people that ever walked in their office. They just walked up and down the hall, so I don't know. But I was anxious to talk to one, but I've only seen 2 people that even came in their hall, and 1 that they talked to. So, but you know, some of that gets to be more for show than anything, and that disappoints me because I'm not up there for show. I'm up there to get something done. Some of the things we're working on right now, probably the biggest thing that's on our plate right now is the budget, and we are trying to get out. I'm new. I don't know, Casey probably correct me on this, but we're hoping to be out by May 4th. That's what the House's goal is, get out and get done. And in fact, since we're talking about that, we just Senate into their special session the first of the week, Monday, was that correct?
Monday or Tuesday.
Monday or Tuesday, and we ended our special session yesterday. Now, just to clarify this, we were not getting double pay because we were in a special session. I'm serious, I've heard that many a time. We were not getting double pay because we were in a special session and a regular session. We were just receiving regular pay, but the second special session has sine died, it's over. And so we are now just doing regular session. All that is going on. We finished that part of that special session stuff. The budget's been balanced on that. The economy has turned around. We are starting to get a lot more money, not a lot more money, but
800 million.
800 million more this year than what we had last year. And so right now we have the money to balance the budget. And so our plan is to get it done and get out of there. But what I wanted to bring up about special session costs you, the taxpayers, $260,000. That's what it costs you. All included, both special sessions and everything. Security for the teacher walkout was $115,000 per day. So, just interesting facts that, you know, those things do cost us money. I don't know how many of you guys saw my picture. I got in trouble for it. No, I didn't get in trouble for it, but I got a lot of comments about it. That I put a picture of the row of outhouses we had. They had 70 outhouses out there in the parking lot for all our visitors, and so it was just kind of, I find some things interesting. I'm not out here to see 70 outhouses lined up in a straight row. So But this last week has been a tough week. We are finishing up Senate bills. We're moving quite a few of those pretty fast. But we also are still having showmanship on the Democratic side because Mr. Inman, Scott Inman, every day tries to suspend rules so that he can move some things forward for the teacher pay raise and moving things forward. Oh, and I'm rambling, but he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but he always tries to suspend the rules, but we've already taken care of that, and so it's just all for show again, and that's probably the biggest part of the circus that we've had. Now, one of the bills that came through this House last week, I want to clarify some things. We moved the gas and diesel tax to road and bridges. There's a thing is you have to have funding that is appropriate to the expenditure that you're doing, okay? And so we had to eventually was going to move the gas and diesel to road and bridges. That makes sense, right? The people that fill up with gas and use diesel are going to be where? On the roads and the bridges, okay? Now, the money that was going to that road and bridges all these last umpteen years was coming out of the general fund. So, that money that was set aside for that, or dedicated for that, moved into the general fund. And so, we are still going to fund the teacher pay raise. We're going to still fund all that extra money. One of the worst parts about the whole vote on the teacher pay raise is most of you probably know, and if you don't, I'm willing to say it, Alva will not receive any money for the additional pay. The majority of my schools in my district will, but Alva, Cherokee, my home district, Burlington, Winoka, Freedom, all those won't. And so that's the hard part. Now they will get the money. The money to the classroom is line item, but they push everything else to being on the formula or off the formula. And so that was a hard vote for us because, and so the other thing I wanted to bring up is that this, let me finish this one and then I'll come back to that, is that they're trying to do something on wind this last week, and maybe you guys have you guys heard of Senate Bill 888? Have you heard about that? That is to put a cap on the wind credits, stop them, and right now that has been put on hold. They're wanting to put a gross production tax on wind instead, and Casey may want to mention some more on that, but I'm a no on that. I don't know if you guys remember, was it 70s, 80s? It wasn't the 80s, it was 70s or 60s. They did the same thing to oil and gas, okay? The rest of the state wants what Northwest Oklahoma has, okay? I'm serious, folks. We are the producers of everything that this state gets. I say north and west, at least west of I-35. You know, we have the wind. The majority of the wind is in our area. The majority of the oil and gas is in our area. And actually, you know, a lot of the money, I don't know, Steve probably tell me, how much money do you guys get from the Land Commission? Mr. Parker?
Oh, I don't know.
But
It's quite a bit.
It's quite a bit from the Land Commission. Most school land is in western Oklahoma, and specifically northwest Oklahoma. So all that combined, we are a producer of a lot of the money there. And so I will be happy to visit with you because I'm here to represent you, but I wanted to ask, you know, let you know right now, I feel like, you know, there's a big wind projects that are going to go from Winoka down through Alene, Clio, and that area. And it's kind of on hold to see what's going to happen with all this. And of the two, capping their credits will do some things. Number one, it'll lead to litigation for the state of Oklahoma with the wind companies, because we made the deal with them, okay? And to let you know, even if they cap the credits, the bill as it reads, they want to cap all the credits, stop them right now. It would not affect the budget this year. It would not affect the budget next year. It would only bring in $6.9 million in 2020, and then it would increase quite a little bit, but over the whole, and then it stops at 2027, because in 2017, we stopped giving those credits last year. So it's got to top in 2017. So you're talking about 6.5 years they're going to get the credits. That's going to stay here. It wouldn't have been paid out to the oil companies. And that whole amount that they're talking about is about 1/12 or 1/15 of our current budget that we appropriate. Not the total budget, but the part that we appropriate. So it's not that big of an impact. More of it's because they want to get back at wind, or they feel oil and gas is big on getting back at wind, and so it's not a good deal, because if that happens, a lot of the wind projects, some could go bankrupt, because that's money they depended on getting back for their companies when they invested in Oklahoma, and so those are some of those things. So, Troy, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted you to explain why Alva, Burlington, Cherokee won't get the funding that others do, just so everybody
Okay.
knows.
Again, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, we are blessed in northwest Oklahoma by oil and gas, and then also wind out in the western part, very west edge of my district, and that we have more revenue coming in than what most schools do based off of oil and gas and all that. So we have more revenue. Because we have more money per student than other schools, you have to have, I don't remember, Steve probably tell the break, or maybe Casey tell the break off on that, on where it is. Because we have so much more money per student, we get off the formula, which means we don't get state funding. We got enough money in our own area that the state doesn't supplement our income for our schools. Okay? So you're off the formula. If you get down in the amount of money that you have from your local area, then you get state subsidized money. Did I get close, Steve?
Yeah, that's a good way. It's just a teeter-totter type situation. It's a balance. If the local money is more, then that goes up, so state aid goes down. If the local money goes down, then your state aid is here. So because of our gross production, because of our land evaluation, because we pay our taxes on time and all those types of things, that's where we're generating the money. Now, we're not totally off of the formula, because we still get some state aid.
For transportation?
For transportation and things of that nature. And then new bills coming out, we're going to get some textbook money again next year that we haven't. And textbooks cost us generally around $72,000 a year, because when we do textbooks, we're going to do pre-K through the 12th grade. And we're going to buy them. We're not going to not buy those types of situations. So right now, last month, our gross production alone for the month was $230,000 approximately. So it's been good. So what do we got? 3 more months in our fiscal year, and we've already taken in about 93% of our gross production for the year. So anything above that is going to be great again. And we'll have a large carryover. What's crazy is then we have to pay a penalty because we're good stewards.
I know, that is crazy, and I am going to look at that and see if we can keep our carryover, because it's ridiculous. If you're not going to give you money, and then they're going to take your money, then if you do too good a job, then you get it taken away from you.
So the expense, like Lynn reported a week ago, for our teacher approximate pay raises is going to be right around $800,000. Now, it could be a little bit more, because we were just talking earlier that we may have more 25-year experienced teachers. So rather than an average $6,100 raise, those experienced teachers are going to get a $7,100 raise. So it may be a little bit more than that. So.
Okay, thank you, Steve. But I want to point this out also. We did increase gross production tax on the new wells from 2% to 5%. So hopefully, in an oil economy, that'll help our area too. So I'll let Casey pick it up from there, and then we'll answer questions. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Carl. You kind of hit all the high points. I have to say, you're right. The last 2 weeks have been, let's just say it's something that if I went my whole 12 years with not seeing it, wouldn't have hurt my feelings any. But with what I saw down there with the teacher walkout, and across the board, all the teachers, Carl and I are blessed.
Amen.
Because our teachers, when they came and talked to us, they were nice, they were respectful. We just have good people up here. I walked by senators' offices that they had teachers in there accosting them in their face, yelling at them, and we're blessed that we just have good people up here. My EA that I hired was shocked that I give my cell phone number out to everyone. She goes, you're crazy for doing that. I go, well, my people's, when they call me, it's because they have a legitimate problem. They don't call me all the time. It's when they have a legitimate problem they call me. So, I don't have a problem giving my cell phone out to everyone. But with that being said, it's it's something that we needed to take care of, and I told this to a lot of teachers. I came in 3 years ago in 14, and we had, $611 million hole in the budget, and the next year $1.3 billion hole in the budget, and then last year $868 million hole in the budget. And all we have been doing since I've been there is baling wire fences together. And I don't know how many ranchers we have in here, probably quite a few. What happens when you just keep baling wire that fence together? Pretty soon you're not holding anything in. It's just you've got a fence that's falling down. And what we were able to do this year is we've set the corner post. We've set the corner post to start rebuilding our education system. And I think it's a good start. But, as far as what the OEA was wanting, I think it was $1.5 billion was their first initial ask. We couldn't have got that done. I tell my wife all the time, I said, you know how you eat an elephant, don't you? It's one bite at a time. And that's what we've got to do to start fixing it. And it's across the board with everything, because we've cut every agency. Higher ed, we've cut 27%. Is that right, Steve? About 27% the last 3 or 4 years?
The last 3 years, 60 out of every dollar cut in the state budget, 60 cents came from higher ed.
So, you can't stand at the Capitol and throw a rock at an agency and not hit something that we haven't cut. So this year, with $800 million more coming into our budget than we had last year, not counting our revenue package that we just did, our budget, we are actually able to start giving these agencies some money back and growing. So I'm optimistic, and I think our economy is going to keep growing. A lot of good things are happening. And it's not just the economy, it's a lot of things that we've done in those bad years. It felt like we wasn't getting anything done, but if you looked back and saw what we were getting done, we're getting paid for it this year. I was, on this package that we just passed, I was getting beat up because we raised taxes and voted for raising taxes. And I had one individual send me an email, and I won't use some of the words he used, but he was not happy. But I said, I responded back to him. I said, well, do you own an oil company? No. Well, your taxes probably didn't go up. Do you smoke? No. Well, your taxes did not go up. Now on the diesel and gas tax, and I explained it to him like this in my email. I said, you know, before I got elected, when I was just running cows in Felt, Oklahoma, I would put on about 50,000 miles a year. And that's checking cows, it's going to town, getting feed, just running my ranch, about 50,000 miles a year. If you figure 16 miles a gallon, 3 cents a gallon, it was going to cost me $1.81 a week. Yeah, $1.81 a week more. $93 a year more because of this tax raise. And I put in that email, I said, do you know I buy more blue and gold sausage every year supporting my school than this tax is costing? We've got, as citizens of Oklahoma, we've got to decide, what is our education worth in this state? I think it's time that we start deciding what we want. And I think with the Colburn effect, and that's what we're calling it, it's Senator Colburn's tax initiative to do away with this. It's going to be up to the voters. And I think, you know, Carl and I both, we represent the voters, and we will abide by what they say. That's going to come down probably in November if they get that put on the ballot. And but I think the voters are going to understand our roads are bad. Our education needs addressed. But at the end of the day, it's going to be what the voters say. But during this time, I understood, and Carl kind of touched on it, I understood why, when you get to northwest Oklahoma and you just keep going west, why people hate paying taxes, hate taxes going up. I can tell you exactly why. It is because we don't see the services those taxes should be paying for. We get shorted on the services that our taxes should be paid for. That's why we hate paying taxes. When I'm sitting in Felt, Oklahoma, I pay the exact same tax rate as someone in Oklahoma City pays. But do I get the same services as that person in Oklahoma City? I'll go drive on some of our roads. The health department in Cimarron County is open 1 day a week. They laid health department people off in Guyman. Laid one off in Laverne. They are, when they start cutting, they cut us first. And that goes through my mind. You know, like I said, I hate raising taxes, but that goes through my mind. I know when cuts are coming, they cut us first. They cut us first. I'm worried about rural hospitals. I'm worried about our schools. I'm worried about our roads and bridges because they cut us first. And I just wanted to say that so you understand what's going through my mind when I have to make these votes. And it makes me sick to my stomach to have to vote to raise taxes. I don't believe in them. But I do believe in health care. I do believe in public safety. And that's our responsibility. With that being said, the win, GPT, I can give you my, GPT on win, I can give you my thoughts on that, what scares me. Carl hit on it. But right now, if you, and you hear a lot of effective rate, you know, what is our effective GPT rate in Oklahoma? And I can tell you, Carl Frank can tell you, every lobbyist that walks into your office has a different set of numbers. They sharpen that pencil up, and their numbers say something totally different than the lobbyist that came into your office 5 minutes before talking about the same issue. I think the effective GPT rate on oil and gas, and this is just going through all the numbers and kind of cleaning all the mud around and trying to find what is the legitimate GPT. I think the effective rate, GPT rate Oklahoma's was paying was 5.3 prior to what we did a couple weeks ago. What we did a couple weeks ago raised it 3 points, so they're paying, in my mind, 8.3 effective rate GPT, and that's all of their tax burden and the cost of their taxes to pull that oil out of the ground. And that's ad valorem, that's all of it. And so this moved them up to 8.3. I think Texas' effective rate is 7.9. We didn't just blow it out of the water raising the taxes, although we kind of kept it right with what Texas is, and I always hate referring to Texas, and we've got to keep up with Texas, but anyway, that's where we're at. Well, on wind, if you figure effective rate GPT on wind, right now what they're paying is 10.7. They're twice what oil and gas was paying. If we put a GPT on top of that, and that's what they're talking about doing, and this 1 megawatt, $1 a megawatt hour GPT rate, that's going to move them to 17% effective rate on GPT. Now, back to my philosophy of why I'm going to fight this GPT so hard, when Oklahoma is not in a crisis mode, and that's all I've seen since I've been there. We've been in a crisis mode. And like I said, we are coming out of this. We're growing, our economy's growing, things are looking up. But when we are not in crisis mode, what I see happening politically is the wind companies are going to come back to the table and say, you know, look, our effective GPT rate is 17%. We need a little relief. We're wanting to build more wind turbines because this is going to stop projects. But they're going to come back to the table. We'll come back to your state if you give us some relief. Now the powers to be in that capital down there, when they start talking about relief, what kind of relief are they going to give them? They're not going to give them the relief that's going to affect the dollars flowing into Oklahoma City. They're going to give them the relief in the dollars flowing into the counties. They're going to give them ad valorem exemptions. And that is the number one reason I've been a wind supporter, is because I've seen what it's been doing for our counties, for our schools. When I sat on the board at Felt, Oklahoma, and I saw them building wind farms in Fort Supply, in Falco, and I saw how those schools flourished. I mean, I was wanting wind turbines for Felt, Oklahoma, because, you know, Felt's just struggling. We needed something. That's why I'm a wind supporter. And if they start making deals, I see the powers to be in Oklahoma City giving relief and ad valorem and keeping the GPT on. And so our counties lose out. That's why I'm going to fight it, as hard as I'm going to fight it. I'm going to switch over. I don't know where we're at on time. I'm going to talk a little bit about the fires shortly, and then you can come up, Earl. I did not have time to check the update this morning. This is yesterday's update. We did, for the first time in Oklahoma's history, the National Guard has troops on the ground helping with the fires. They've sent their hippos out. They're delivering water to the firefighters. As of yesterday they've delivered 32,000 gallons out, and the fire trucks are filling up out of these hippos. And the National Guard's on the ground. That's the first time in history they've had to deploy National Guard to a fire, and they actually have people on the ground. They do have Blackhawks on standby around, and those are going to be just in case firefighters get caught behind the line and need to be evacuated out. So we're working on, my wife is a genius. She is a marketing genius. So we toured the fire Sunday coming back down, and we were talking because, you know, we need to, when you post on Facebook, you need to hashtag these news organizations. We need to get national coverage on this, and it'll help, you know, raise money for these fire departments. So I started hashtagging them, and she started hashtagging them, and she actually, I think Good Morning America picked it up yesterday morning. They had a deal, and she called me yesterday or the day before. I can't. All my days at the Capitol run together. I just get up and go to work. I don't know what day it is, but she had contacted these fire departments and said, you know, if you set up a GoFundMe account, that will make it a lot easier for people to donate to your fire department. So she's been a trooper, and I know Taloga's fire department has set it up, a GoFundMe account. But we're at close to 300,000 acres that's burned. Senator Inhofe last year, with the fires that we had last year, had ran federal legislation. One problem we have is dealing with FEMA, and FEMA's main concern is urban America, and they kind of want to start talking about disasters in how many homes was destroyed, how many families it hurt. And you know, last year I think that fire got 4 homes, but it got $50 million worth of fencing. They don't understand that, you know, there may not be any homes out there, but it's somebody's business. And so Inhofe ran this legislation, and I guess we're going to get it tested this year. I hate that, but Sunday when I stopped into Logan and visited with the fire department, I think Sunday they were at 60 homes that were lost. And I don't know what we've lost this week. I know Tuesday was a horrible day fighting this fire, and it moved into some new areas. So I don't know right now today where we're at with homes. But I talked to Woodward's emergency management guy, and he thinks we're getting close to that 100. Yes, ma'am.
Well, they were talking last weekend that it was not going to be able to be put out until this Friday. Will that mean that next time that they'll send the National Guard out quicker, or send the tanks? Because it's been, 30,000 head of cattle that have died.
I don't think that number's accurate. I talked to the cattleman yesterday, night before last, and I asked him what the cattle goes. Well, that news story that came out that said 30,000, he goes, he didn't think that was accurate. They hadn't got a good count on them yet. But you're right, and 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, they had a fire at the Black Mesa, and a wildfire, and I was on the phone calling, you know, getting support. And one thing I found out as far as getting support, that fire chief that's in command of that fire, he has to be the one that makes that call. So to get the National Guard, I think that would be the director of forestry that has to make that call. I would hope that if there's a reason whenever I get stopped and that highway patrolman says, "What are you doing, run into a fire?" We need all hands on deck when because this is springtime in Oklahoma. That wind's going to blow 70 miles an hour. Let's get it out before we hit those days. But it was.
I think that was part of the problem, is that you couldn't deploy those troops. The fire departments couldn't even do their normal tactics because the wind was so strong and the heat was so hot ahead of that, and that, you know, that Butler, their truck stalled because it just couldn't get there. But I mean, the winds were so strong, there wasn't.
Right, there were several days.
There's anything man could do to stop it.
There were several days in this fire they couldn't do anything. It was blowing too hard. They could try to save houses, but as far as trying to stop the fire, it wasn't going to happen. And I had a lady call me the other day, and she asked, you know, why don't we have more National Guard out there? You know, I've seen them, but we don't have a whole bunch of troops out there. Well, the National Guard only have so many that's trained in fighting fires. And I said, as bad as this fire is, they're not going to deploy troops and put them in harm's way if they're not trained on how to fight this fire. They have deployed the ones that know how to fight the fires. And I'll take questions. I think that's about it. If I missed anything, maybe it'll come up in a question.
I talked to a lady yesterday from Hooker, and she said, "Why don't we sell the school land?" Have you heard that proposal?
Oh yeah, I have. So the school land, Kansas did that. You know, and are y'all familiar in why we have school land in the state? Are y'all aware? Most of you, if you're not, I can explain. You want me to explain?
Yeah.
Okay, so whenever the United States started taking in western states and bringing them into the Union, the president said, you know, we want you to designate 2 sections per township as school land because we want you to have education in these western states. And that money coming from the school land is going to be to build schools and fund education, higher ed and common ed. You need to have state colleges, you need to have schools. And so Kansas, and I can't remember when they did this, but they sold all their school land. And they went out and built schools, and this had been, I want to say, in the 20s or 30s. Well, they've gone through a consolidation. There's a lot of those schools that are not schools anymore. It's just sitting out there. But Kansas does not have any more school land. They sold it all. They're not getting any more revenue off of it. Our School Land Commission, CLO, Commission's Land Office, has about $2 billion and growing. And that's through investment, that's through leases. They've got 1.6 million in cash and about 600 million that's invested just in stocks. I mean, so their money's growing. And our schools are getting a dividend off of that every year. I think last year was $118 million they put into education. Is that right? Steve, do you know the number? Or?
Maybe a little bit more than that, actually.
So that's every year. And so the school lands are producing revenue for the schools. The issue I have living in Cimarron County against selling that school land, Cimarron County has 296,000 acres.
Can I point out they're a little slower out there in Cimarron County and everything else? They have to put more schools out there.
Oh, I can get in the argument why it's out there. It's because those people in Kingfisher County didn't want that good black dirt, just the state owning it, so they traded it for land out there, but sitting out there, that rock hill. But in Cimarron County, 236,000 acres, 20% of the county is school land. Kind of one block up Black Mesa country. What worries me about putting it up for auction, just selling it all, right now the majority of that land is leased by Cimarron County residents. You put it up for sale, what worries me is you have a Ted Turner or someone like that comes in and they're able to buy these big blocks of land. They're not a resident. They're an absentee landowner. They're not buying their groceries at the grocery store. They're not buying their feed at the local feed store. They're big enough, they buy it straight from the company. And that's what worries me about selling this, is the local guy that's leasing it, when it goes up to auction, that he won't be able to lease it. So that's my perception on what happens if we sell it.
That would be my perception too, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And school land money can only be used for certain things, primarily capital projects.
Right.
At universities, what we use to replace roofs, to buy, to repair buildings and things. It can't be used for general operating expenses.
So one thing I want to do is I want to run a bill that if you lease school land, you get a free parking pass at OSU.
That'll be cheap.
Just because parking's so easy there. Any other questions?
Yeah, he's going to say it.
Oh, and OU, if there's OU.
Thank you.
Okay, and OU, sorry.
And Northwest.
And Northwest.
We don't charge what they do for parking.
Any questions? Surely we didn't get everything.
I've always wondered about the Indian property, whether the state gets any taxes or any income off of that.
No. So the only income that we get is from the casinos, and we get about 120 million a year off of the casinos, and then 88% of that goes to education. Is designated to go to education, 88% of the 120 million. But no, we don't, they are a sovereign nation, and
Can you audit them what we should be getting?
no. And that is the compacts. That's why this next governor's race is so important, because we're going to renegotiate the compacts in 2020. in the last compacts, for some reason, we can't audit what they're sending us as far as their casinos. And I made the comment as, I don't understand why we said we weren't gonna audit them, because it'd be kind of like the IRS said, we're not ever gonna come audit you, we can't audit you, just send us what you think you owe us. What kind of record would be in then? So yeah, we can't audit, that's part of the contract, or compacts, we can't audit them. So when we renegotiate these compacts in 2020, I hope that the next governor will get an audit power in there that we can come in and look at their books.
That was one of the reasons I voted against the ball and dice. There's a ball and dice bill right now. If they pay roulette, they can't pay it with a ball. And if they have a craps table, they have to play with cards. All has to be played with cards or electronically. And so what we gave them brought in 23 million,
Yeah.
is that right? 23 million. But I guarantee you, when that compact comes around, you'd like to have all the cards in your hands when you're negotiating with somebody, if you don't have anything to give them. The only big thing we've got to give them right now is to let them do sports booking. And so that's the only thing we've got left. And because if they have to agree to everything, we don't have a upper hand on them when we come to these negotiations. It's whatever they agree to. And so it gets to be more difficult. That's why I wanted to keep that back, because I'd like to have something more they wanted. Because I think it's worth twice that much, at least, in a compact.
And I may be misunderstanding, but their retail shops, their smoke shops, and their other businesses, are they exempt from collecting sales and submitting sales?
They collect sales tax, so they charge tax just like, say you have a smoke shop here and across the street you have Frank Morgan's convenience store. They charge the same sales tax, but we have to rebate that back to them. They collect it, but we have to give it back to them because they're a sovereign nation. But in the compacts, that was put in so that competition is equal. But we give that money back to them.
So it's not.
Well, they still make the profit, but as far as you going to buy a pack of cigarettes, you're still paying taxes.
They can voluntarily not take that back if they want to.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen.
Okay, I'm going to give a history lesson. I'm a retired teacher. It goes back to your American history class. I can't think of the court case, but the state cannot tax federal property. All Indian nations or their sovereignty is protected as federal property. You may legally own it as a federal citizen, but they get to administrate it. So
What I worry about is tribes being in a position and then going ahead and purchasing property, and then are those same compact laws applicable to the purchased property as they were to the granting?
So the way I understand, because we went through this out in Texas County, we're still kind of going through it. They bought property out there. They had to, and the BIA has to allow this to happen, they have to put it into their trust. And until they put it into their trust, it'd be like anybody having property. But when it goes in the trust, then it becomes
part of their nation.
part of their nation.
Can I make one little point? I just found this out this last weekend. Interesting point. They're federal land, right? They're not part of the state of Oklahoma. Guess what? If medical marijuana gets passed, they can't do it in Indian land. At least that's the case in New Mexico. So I just thought that was interesting, because it's not a federally approved substance. So.
But then the tribe can go ahead and approve it. At least they have in Arizona with the Navajo Nation. So.
They probably have there may be a big fight with the feds, because I know that's why in Colorado all those pot shops deal with cash because of the federal banking laws.
Yeah.
Troy and I are wondering about tribal license tags. Does the state receive any?
No.
You're shaking your
No.
head, no.
Just enough to cover the cost.
Do they take care of their own roads then?
They do get federal dollars for roads, yeah. If you know, they do that. But your license,
On our roads too.
but your license plates, that money really doesn't go to roads.
Yeah.
It goes to other things. I think education
It
gets
should,
part of,
like Texas does. Big compared to Texas.
What percent of Oklahoma is Indian?
At least a third.
yeah, at least a third.
At least a third. Believe me, the tribes are powerful.
They are. One thing I want to bring up, and I'm kind of shifting gears here, is the capital gains tax that we've been hearing a lot about. Right now, we're not going to hear capital gains tax. And I'm thoroughly opposed to that because, I mean, it affects farmers and ranchers across the board. It doesn't matter what size you are, it's going to affect you. And so, as of today, the capital gains tax is not going to be heard, and we're not going to be looking at that at all.
Okay, this is going back to the wind energy,
Okay?
and this may be part of what you already covered. I just want to clarify. I heard something on the news last night, and I didn't hear the whole story, but what I did hear, they were wanting to do away with the wind companies paying ad valorem taxes and paying another way.
That's the GBT. That was the GBT we
Okay, so
talked
you
about.
guys are definitely not for that.
No, that's,
Okay, I just wanted to
I
clarify
mean,
that.
okay, if this wind project comes through Winoka, I think 2/3, 3/4 of it's in Woods County. And all that money stays, majority of that money stays in the county, which helps our area. You put a GBT, half of it goes to the state, everywhere, and the other half stays here in the county. And so, that's the way they've got it drawn up right now. I haven't seen the bill. It's supposed to be knocking on our door on Monday, but I haven't seen the official draft yet. But that was an amendment to 888 that they added late to make it a GBT. It was the way I had it broke down. But in other words, you're giving half of it away. So.
no, and that's, I've had some very heated conversations with people down there that says, well, we don't, and it came from a representative, I'm not going to say who it was, but I think you probably know.
Yep.
They just don't understand why only 64 schools in the state of Oklahoma benefit from the wind. I said, well, I can tell you, Felt, Oklahoma doesn't benefit from Devon Towers. Doesn't benefit from that Google factory in Pryor. Google Center. We finally get some growth out here, some investment, diversifying our economy to be, something besides oil and gas and agriculture. And they want to get their fingers on it. I will fight to the death on that one. Because that's one of the main reasons I ran. We send dollars to Oklahoma City, we get pennies back. That's not okay with me.
And part of the school, I mean, what's interesting in southeast Oklahoma, the evaluations of their county and their properties, they haven't updated their evaluations in a long time. So unless that county assessor evaluates the property at a true amount, that's a decreased amount of money that goes into their county, which also goes back into the state, which also goes into the educational funding and stuff like that. And so they're hurting us as much as anything because they're not evaluating their property at the same level. I mean, our assessors try to give a true value of our worth in our area.
I want to change subject. How do you two feel about the prison reform and trying to reduce the number of prisoners in our system since we lead the world and the number of incarcerated women?
My philosophy on that, I think a person's responsible for their actions. And I think we can look at different offenses, but, you know, I'm trying to think what bill it was ran this year to start releasing them at 60.
Percent?
No, at 60 years old.
Oh,
What was that
I
bill?
don't remember, but yeah.
Babbitt ran it on the House side, Shaw ran it on the Senate side. But I guess looking at it, I'm 47 years old. I'm almost 60. That's not old to me. I think if you did a crime, if you broke the law, you should be punished.
There are some things that we need to do to work on that, and that we are working on that on the House side. Some of the governor's reforms we're working on. Some are not always agreeable to everybody, but we're trying to wade through and see what's right. Because, yeah, he is correct, we keep more women than any other prison. And sometimes we need to be a little more responsible about, we can't afford, this is Hickman, we can't afford to put up everyone we're mad at. We just need to put up the ones we're afraid of that will really harm us. So they are working in some of those areas, but not everybody has a palate for all the things that they're wanting to do, and so it's going through that process of finding what's right. And so that's what's going on right now. But I know we've got, I think in the House we still have 2 that are on conference committee, 2 bills that will deal with prison reform.
Then we passed 4 of them off the Senate floor Wednesday.
So.
In response to that, being on the prison advisory board, Todd is a member of the corrections board, and he had told us, Lynn, that they had jobs, they had found jobs for every one of the people that were going to be let out early, when it like 1,400 or something, and it only ended up with just, a fraction of that. But they found jobs for the people. How long it would last, I don't know. But am I saying that correctly, Lynn?
Yeah, they put some restrictions on the qualifications, and from the 1,400 jobs they found, took it down to 2 dozen or something.
It was like 40 or 60 or something like that.
Very low numbers.
That they released, or the
They're
jobs?
going to sort of be on a work release kind of thing.
That they found jobs for the people that were going to be released so that they could be a productive citizen, but I don't know it,
But if somebody put restrictions on it, or really killed it.
We are also trying to incorporate career check more into prisons, because like you said, they're more valuable if they have a skill or something like that. So I've been working with career tech on that to get them back involved more in that. And everything doesn't move at a rapid pace, but they are working on doing that, because that's better for them to come out with some kind of skill.
It's happening at Bill Johnson. We have a career tech program.
Well,
Thank you very much if you had a hand in that. And currently our recidivism rate is 38%, and statewide it's 80%. So we're doing some good at Bill Johnson Correctional Center.
Yeah, it is the shining star in the state of Oklahoma in the corrections.
And the nation.
Pardon?
And the nation.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for letting us come. And, it's always great. If you have any questions, I'll give you my cell phone too. I've got it right here. It's on my card, so I'll be happy to talk to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.